Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, March the 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. All of our commissioners are present tonight, our county manager, county attorney, finance officer, clerk. Let me ask you at this time to silence any mobile devices that you have. If you have telephones or tablets or anything that's going to make a noise, I would ask you to silence those at this time. Also would remind you as you speak tonight, if you're presenting the microphone up front, I didn't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure you won't need to touch anything. The microphone will be managed, and so you won't have to worry about the microphone. And let me express appreciation for your cooperation with the COVID compliance tonight, getting your health screening checked off as you came in. Appreciate you wearing your mask. And as you come and go, please do that to comply with our COVID requirements. As we move through the meeting tonight, we do have a lot of folks to speak during public comment. I'll give you a little bit more direction about that once we get to that point. We will need for you to, after you have had opportunity to speak during public comment, to exit the room so that we can bring other folks in so that they can also have their time for public comment. We do have a capacity requirement in the room tonight, so we cannot have everybody in the room at the same time. So thank you for your cooperation in advance tonight. Pleased to have with us tonight Pastor David Bridges from the First Apostolic Church in Morganton tonight to lead in our invocation, and following the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance will be provided by our county attorney, J.R. Simpson. And Pastor, I said Morganton, but is that the right? Yeah. Sometimes that address gets a little off. All right. We'll ask the Pastor to come at this time and give our invocation. Let's stand together.
Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you and praise you for this day that you've blessed us with. Pray, Lord, that you would have your hand on this meeting tonight. Lord, you declare in your word that we will be judged by every word that proceeds out of our mouth, that we'll be either justified or condemned by them, God. So tonight I pray that every speaker, Lord, that you would guard their mind, their heart, and their mouth, God, as they speak. Pray, Lord, that you would let everything be done with praise and adoration to you. Lord, through every difference, through every separation, God, we pray that you would receive glory in it all tonight. We love you, we praise you in the wonderful, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Please join me in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 on our agenda tonight is approval of the agenda. Gentlemen, you've had this for a number of days. I'll entertain a motion at this time to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's all of us, Madam Clerk. We also have tonight approval of meeting minutes. We have the minutes from January the 28th, 2021, the Board of Commissioners recessed meeting. That was associated with our retreat. And then February the 2nd, 2021, Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting. Gentlemen, I hope you've had time to look at those. I'll entertain a motion for those meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's all of us, Madam Clerk. We have just 2 items for presentation tonight. First item will come from our county manager. We have a couple new department heads, and manager's team. We'll hear from you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, have the pleasure of introducing to you 2 new department heads. To give you a little background, the General Services Director job posting was posted on January 6, 2021, and was posted on the Burke County website, NC Works, NCACC, the NC League of Municipalities, and on Indeed. We received 19 applications and/or resumes, letters of interest. The postings were taken down on February 11th, 2021. Mark Delhunt was selected out of the people that we interviewed. Mark comes to us from Stokes County, where he had been a General Services Director for a little over 13 years. He has a Grade A distribution for water certification, a Grade C well, and cross-connector operator by the North Carolina Water Treatment Facility Operators Board. For wastewater certifications, he has Collection System Grade 4, Wastewater Treatment Grade 1, Subsurface System, and Physical Chemical Discharge by the North Carolina Water Pollution Control System Operators Certification Commission. He also has a pesticide applicator's license as well. Mark, if you want to come up and just say howdy, that'd be great.
Thank you. As you may know, I'm a former Burke County employee. Brian actually hired me away in 2007, and now he's brought me back to what I consider home. And it's good to be home. I told Brian as a condition he couldn't move again because I can't bear to move again, so he's going to have to stay here. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you and welcome to Burke County. We look forward to working with you.
The other fellow he may be a stranger to you. I don't know if you've ever met him before. The EMS Director position was posted on January 22nd, 2021, and brought down on March the 8th, 2021. It was posted on the Burke County website, NC Works, NCACC, and the Indeed website. We received 11 applications and/or resumes. Jason Black as our new EMS Director. He has 29 years experience in emergency services. He was certified as an EMT in 1996. He was a part-time Burke County EMS employee in 1999. Paramedic certification in 1999. He became a full-time Burke County EMS employee in 2001. He was promoted to Major in 2012 and was just now promoted to Director. He has his paramedic certification from McDowell Tech and has also completed EMS Leadership Academy at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Would Jason come on up and say hi?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Looking forward to move forward, serving the citizens of the county, and been here 29 years and really don't want to be anywhere else. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jason, and I'll just comment. Since I've been on the board up until recently, I've served on the EMS Quality Management Committee and got an opportunity over these past years to get to know Jason just a little bit. And congratulations on your promotion, and we look forward to working with you as well going forward.
Thank you.
Give
very
Jason a big hand. Okay, thank you. All right, this brings us to item number 2 tonight. NC 811 proclamation regarding North Carolina 811 Safe Digging Month. This will be presented by Brian Morehouse, the liaison for North Carolina 811. Brian, come forward, and I'll ask you to speak pretty close to the microphone so we can hear you. Yes, you may.
My name is Brian Morehouse, and I'm the Western Region Education Liaison for NC 811. We've asked for a proclamation. April is Safe Digging Month, and as more important than ever, more and more people are doing it yourself, doing jobs at home, and we're really trying really hard to get out there and let everyone know to make sure that you call 811 and get those public utilities marked.
All right, Brian, thank you for being here tonight and being in the utility business from 8 to 5. I certainly concur with his encouragement to please call 811 if you decide to start digging around in your yard. Maybe you're going to plant a tree or put up a fence or all kind of things that folks like to dig around, and you can get in trouble real easy. And so give them a call. It's a free call. Just takes about 3 days to be certain that everything in your yard gets marked as much as possible so that you'll be safe and you won't You won't be without power, you won't be without telephone or cable TV and all that good stuff that we like to have. So again, Brian, thank you for being here tonight. We're glad to support the proclamation.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, this brings us to item number 7, scheduled public hearings this evening.
Motion.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve a proclamation number 202101?
Mr. Chairman, I do make the motion that we accept this resolution. I did want to point out one thing on this resolution. Most people do not realize the enormity of that process. And the fifth whereas, the system received 2.1 million. This is just North Carolina, folks. 2.1 million notification requests, and that transmitted to over 12.2 million requests providing protection of utility companies and infrastructure employees and their customers. I think that's a huge undertaking for North Carolina. I so move for the motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you. All right, now we'll come to public hearings tonight. We do not have any public hearings tonight, and that brings us to informal public comments. And so just before we begin tonight, let me give just a few instructions so that we can move this process as efficiently as we can. We have a lot of folks tonight that want to make public comment, and we want to allow as much of that as possible. I will remind you that during public comments, this is not a dialogue session between the public and the commissioners. It is an opportunity for the public to come and simply make comments, whatever they wish to comment about. And so because of the number of speakers tonight, I will enforce strictly the 3-minute time limit. And so if you begin to go past that time limit, I will ask you to stop and we'll move on to the next speaker. Also, because of the numbers we have tonight and because of the capacity requirements in our room due to the COVID, I will ask that after the folks that are in the room right now have an opportunity to make their comments and speak, I'm going to ask you to exit the room if you're here for public comment so that we can bring in the next group of folks to make public comment. So before, I know that perhaps most of you tonight are to speak one way or another regarding the monument on the courthouse square. If you're here tonight to speak on any other subject, let me ask you to raise your hand at this point. Okay, seeing none then, we'll begin with the folks who are in the room. And why don't we just start with this lady on the front row here, if you don't mind. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Okay, I don't like being first, but my name is Deb Batman. I live in 107 Fox Street. And I really don't have anything major to say other than Batman does not support the monument remaining. It needs to come down. And so I want to use my last name to say Batman here doesn't believe the monument should stay. So been a resident here for 30 years, moved here because of the deaf school, and it's a lovely community, and it does not reflect well having that statue. I hope you'll consider doing what you can to take it down.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Let's just go right down the front row here for just a moment. Yes, sir. You may. When you come to the mic, you may remove your mask if you like when you speak. Otherwise, we'd ask you to keep it on as you move around the room and come and go.
My name is Thomas Vincent Crosby II, currently a resident of Hickory, North Carolina, but formerly a resident of 118 Petite Drive, Morganton, North Carolina. Commissioners and Honorable Clerk to the Board, once again a coalition of individuals have made plain their demands to remove the Confederate memorial in downtown Morganton, which they view as a nuisance and an item of division. And once again, I stand before you, and this time with the aid of many of us present and over 3,000 signed, to make plain our humble petition that the soldier which stands and has stood for over 100 years promotes no division, no hatred, as its existence is that of a tribute to our fellow North Carolinians, our fellow Burke Countyans, and our sacred dead. Members of the board, as before when I last spoke, again I could provide historical example after historical example of why a monument to the Southern cause would be befitting. As Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy stated in his inauguration address, our cause is that the American idea that the government rests upon the consent of the governed, and that it is the right of the people to alter or abolish governments whenever they become destructive for the ends to which they are established. End quote. But I will not discuss this tonight. I will not digress into such a discussion, as the monument, as those who are set upon the removal of the monument, their minds are clearly set and would not be swayed by such facts. Instead, I shall reiterate that the tribute stands as one of somber remembrance to those that crumbled in agony as they were struck by federal bullets at Sharpsburg, to those who, in the words of one officer of the Confederate Army at Gettysburg, along with Pickett's charge, quote, disappeared in a pink mist, to those who fought while Union General Stoneman rode through Morganton and burnt the county records, and to those, many a boy, many a North Carolinian, many a Burke Countyan, not unlike this boy here, who suffered the final pains of death. To remove the monument is to say to every North Carolinian who died, be forgotten. And is to say to every descendant present here tonight, and to say to every descendant whose hearts lie with their countrymen and their sacred dead, be gone. Let the earth consume your bones. Let them be forgotten. Let Morganton only stand for those who are against our history. Let Morganton only stand for those who will agree. It is for these reasons and many more which I would speak to you tonight, but which time prevents me from doing so, why the monument should stay and why it should continue to honor our dead. Gentlemen, honorable clerk to the board, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chairman Burke, I'm sorry. We allow everyone else to come in here and get a seat while we line up in orderly way by the list we were sent today. I'm going to ask you to allow Sam Avery to please speak next.
All right, if you'll wait just a moment, please, I'll consider that. But what I want to do at this time, we've heard two opposing views concerning the statue already. I want to give you an opportunity at this point for those who are in the room to stand if you are in favor of moving the monument as the first speaker, and you would like to make that as your statement tonight. Now, I still will, if you do not stand at either of these times, you'll still have an opportunity to speak, but I want to give you the opportunity to make your voice known by standing, and we'll make a note of those on either side, and then you would not have to speak tonight. We would note your opinion by that method. That will give us an opportunity to move this process along just a little bit quicker tonight and still know that your voice has been heard. So if it is your desire to move forward in that way and you wish the monument to be moved, I'm going to ask you to stand at this time, and the clerk will take account of those who stand, and you would not have to speak going forward. Anybody at this point? So, Madam Clerk, these are those in this room now who would like to see the monument moved.
I wasn't here to speak about the monument. I'm just here as a lifelong concerned citizen of Burke County, and just wanted to attend the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right. If you're in the room and you wish that the monument not be moved or relocated, I'm going to ask you to stand at this time. Madam Clerk, if you will take account. All right, you may be seated. Now, for those who did not stand. If you wish to speak, you can wait just a moment if you like, and we'll clear the room once all these folks have had their say. Mr. Avery, I'm going to let you come on the list.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm Sam Avery, and I'm grateful to address you about the Confederate Monument. I'm among a number of thoughtful and orderly people who will speak. It's a growing group of Burke Countyans who care deeply about Burke's future. A movement of hearts and bodies from many walks of life who are committed to a conversation that will build understanding and respect and can grow into reconciliation, healing, and a renewed community that is welcoming and inclusive. I'm a former history teacher, born into a family that came to Burke County over 200 years ago. Avery names are carved on that monument. To me, history is valuable because of the lessons that it teaches, and if well learned, can lead to making life more promising for everybody. Visible artifacts of history that are displayed in public places like the Confederate Monument, top, middle, and base, are erected for a reason or reasons. On one hand, to teach and to honor, and on another hand, to remind and to remember. Generally, they symbolize important values that a body of people shares. About 100 years ago, our Confederate monument was purposefully erected in the most public spot at the seat of democracy in Burke County. There was more than one driving reason for putting it up. Many Burke Countyans with a voice heard then, and they hear today, that the monument is crying out to honor the Confederate dead. These days, new historic facts have come to light about other reasons for which it was erected. Other Burke Countyans who had no voice when that monument was raised, but who have now won their voice, hear that monument shouting a painful reminder of unjust, brutal, inhumane enslavement and repression. Recently, very public, inflamed disagreement has been dangerously exclaimed by both sides about the monument's purpose and the lessons that it teaches. This unnerving time of straining to be right has to stop. What needs to begin is a time when all sides offer their hearts and their hands to work for the common good, their task enlightened by the lessons of history, to fashion a better, more just and promising way in pursuit of forming a more perfect union here in Burke County. As a Christian, the entire monument, top, middle, base, symbolizes for me deeply conflicting values that cause our people to fight about what lessons that it is teaching. That monument no longer speaks effectively from a public space. I'm in favor of moving the entire Confederate monument off the courthouse lawn. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right. Anybody on the front row that still wishes to speak? I'm sorry? My microphone? It says it's on. Okay. Anybody else on the second row that wishes to speak that did not stand up earlier? Please come forward.
Good evening there, Commissioners. My name is Elgin McGowan. I'm an 80-year-old resident of this county. My people have been here since 1750. I'm here to keep the monument where it's at the old courthouse square. That's a museum to start with. There's no better place than where it is sitting at the present time. This is where the old Confederate soldiers went to enlist and went off to the War of Northern Aggression. After the war, the citizens wanted to remember the Confederate soldiers, so the county, along with the citizens and the old soldiers, paid their money and their pensions for many years for the monument to be erected. Around the base of the monument, we have name plates paid for by either the families of the Confederate soldiers or the soldiers themselves. They paid anywhere from $3 to $5 to have their name inscribed on these nameplates. Many people come from near and far to look at these inscribed nameplates, to look and see if their Confederate ancestors are listed here. That is history to a lot of people. If we remove this, where will they go to find their Confederate ancestors? We had 11 regiments that left out of Burke County. We had right at 1,300 to 1,350 soldiers that left out of here during the war. And they want to be remembered, so that's why our statue is today. But now we have a lot of foreigners coming in. We got some carpetbaggers come in here as they did after the war. You know, they're always making problems, causing problems. They don't have nothing to lose by having this statue taken down. And we have the scalawags. That's people as a local community that are turning their backs on their own ancestors. So, you know, we're fighting a battle here with people that don't have nothing to accomplish by keeping the statue there. We also have a man named Lucifer that's got into some of our churches. And some of the pastors are bringing out hate comments, putting it in the paper. And this shouldn't be done. We also had a petition where we had over 3,000 people that signed up to keep this statue where it's at. If we abide by the present laws of North Carolina, the statue, we cannot move the statue under the present laws because the statue is in the museum grounds of the old Burke County Yard. If one day it comes to the vote, hope the commissioners don't put it on their shoulders to make that vote. Hope they pass it on to the public on a voting referendum of the county. Let the people decide because they own the statue, we don't. My last statement, anyone who believes removing the memorials erected to one group of people to honor their dead will bring unity and healing. It is delusion to believe that we should take this down. On the contrary, disrespecting the memorials of one group of people in order to appease the hateful demand of another only brings division, distrust, animosity, where it should not exist today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGayer. Anyone else on the second row still wish to speak?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Ronnie. I'm the current commander of the Valdez chapter of Sons of Confederate Veterans, Camp 2162. Firstly, I know that I'm not the only representative from my organization who will be speaking tonight. With that in mind, my goal tonight is to present you with a clear idea of who we really are and some examples of some of our bylaws. There are a lot of misconstrued opinions on who we are and why we use the symbols that we use. The SCV is the direct heir to the United Confederate Veterans and the oldest hereditary organization for male descendants of Confederate soldiers. Organized in Richmond, Virginia in 1896, the SCV continues to serve as a historical, patriotic, and non-political organization dedicated to ensuring that the history of the 1861 to 1865 period is preserved. Membership of the Sons of Confederate Veterans is open to all male descendants of any veteran who served honorably in the Confederate Armed Forces. We are in no way associated with any hate groups or those who would otherwise use the symbols of the Confederacy in a way that would cause racial prejudice or division. We have members from all walks of life. We have farmers, lawyers, doctors, factory workers, actors, and even past presidents who have been members. Our members come from every racial and religious background. We also have international chapters, with the biggest memberships coming from Brazil and Germany. The only requirement, besides having an ancestor who served honorably during the war, is that you have good moral character. Therefore, our organization's constitution demands that no member be associated with any hate group. If any member is found to be a member of such group, the membership of the individual is immediately revoked. We are not blind to the fact that certain hate groups openly use our symbols. Groups such as the Ku Klux Klan use our symbols, and from this perspective, we believe that this only serves to tarnish and dishonor the very men we hope to vindicate. The monument outside is dedicated to soldiers, not politicians. Soldiers who left behind their homes and loved ones to fight in a war many of them did not want nor understand. They were ill-supplied, and by the end of the war, many did not even have shoes. They froze in the winter, went for long periods without efficient food supplies, not to mention suffering from the countless diseases found in camps. The monument outside is dedicated to soldiers, both black and white, who took up arms in this area to defend not the institution of slavery, but their homes, loved ones, and everything they knew. We believe the monuments such as these should be preserved and protected, standing as a reminder of our local history and where we came from as a community and as Americans. Removing these monuments will not end racism, but only cause a greater rift between our two viewpoints, and we will only continue down this unfortunate path of unnecessary division. We as members of the SCV are your neighbors, friends, pastors, family members, and fellow Americans. Our fight will never be for the advocacy of discrimination or prejudice, but for the preservation of our Southern soldiers and their history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronnie. Anyone else on the second row still wish to speak? Okay, at this time, I'll go to the third row.
Sharon Winter, I'm just going to remind you, we follow Bio's rules. I have 60 to 70 people, old, some of them sick, who cared enough to come here and speak. We allowed all the other people to come in and take the seat because you told us, we were told we were going to file them in, we organized. We've spent a lot of time following by your rules, and now other people are getting to speak, and I've got people out there sick and old and cold waiting in line, and I'm trying to be super respectful, but I'm feeling like we follow the rules and we get punished for it.
I hear you, Miss Avery. I was not privy. I realize you worked with the clerk. I know that she's helped you get all this organized. However, these folks were already sitting in the room. I'm going to clear this room in just a few minutes, and all of your folks can come in and take the room at that time.
And you do realize that people didn't understand. They stood up, and then they spoke also. So they counted as standing up, and then they're speaking too. So I know it's hard, but people should be allowed to speak, and I do feel like we're being punished for following by the rules.
I hear you. I will ask you, if you stood up, please do not speak. That was our desire, to move this meeting along so that you had the opportunity.
You didn't understand. So you
So, all right, I'm going to move to the third row. If there's anybody that did not stand earlier and wish to speak on the third row. Seeing none, fourth row. Anybody that did not stand and wish to speak?
I misunderstood your request.
Uh-huh.
I would like to speak. I apologize. I just misunderstood your request.
Okay, please come forward and speak.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I am Alan W. Forward, great-grandson of Riley Rufus McGempsey, who was an enslaved person born in Burke County in 1845. Chairman Britton and your fellow commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. At a point following the announcement of the selection of Burke County becoming the home of the Western Campus of the School for Math and Science, on at least 2 occasions, Mr. Kevin Baxter and I spoke of the wonderful opportunity the educational institution would provide for a diverse faculty and student body. It certainly appears that that opportunity has been severely affected by the prominent display in our community of symbols of the Confederacy, flags on a major corridor, and the monument in historic downtown Morganton. Mr. Baxter has shared with me his recent experiences and has permitted me to share those, and I quote, The School for Math and Science has lost a number of potential leadership positions due to the presence of Confederate emblems in our county, end of quote. How many dreams will be deferred for potential faculty and support staff? How many dreams will be deferred for deserving students whose parents do not feel their child deserves exposure to these symbols and their historic intent? The question has occurred to me: had decision makers been aware of such blatant symbolism in our county, would Burke County be the home of this prestigious educational institution? As I was preparing my remarks this evening, I recall the gentleman, the late John Blaynott, who made a bold move for education in this county several decades ago. I'm also reminded by those brilliantly penned words by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I quote, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." Thank you.
Any others on the fourth row that did not stand and wish to speak? And the last row, any others that did not stand and wish to speak tonight? Please come forward.
Gentlemen of the board, my name is Thomas Vincent Crosby. I was born at the old Grace Hospital, which is now your comma, back in '62. We've lived in 118 Petite Drive, Morganton, technically Drexel, for over 50 years. We recently moved to Hickory, but our heart is still back here in Burke County. War between the states was 160 years ago. It was a bloodbath. Over 1 million wounded and 630,000 killed. South was at war, North Carolina was at war, Burke County was at war. Our blood kin and our ancestors were at war. At Gettysburg, North Carolina mourned for many empty homes with no men. When the war was over and Union occupation ended around 1870, men were down, depressed, poverty-stricken. Many people lost their land because they could not pay 4 years of federal-backed taxes. As a way of bringing healing and recognition for the sacrifice of the fathers, sons, brothers, families, and friends who had fought and died, many worked hard to raise the money for the monument in Burke County. A lot of sacrifice in order to give their ancestors' name included. In 1958, the Congress of the United States passed a law that the Confederate soldier was an American soldier, and your monument honored him would be fairly protected. The law was passed because the true history of the Confederacy was one of honor and bravery, not hate. We are compelled by God's words to never hate, but to love one another and to forgive each other. Matthew 6:14 says, "For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will forgive you yours. But if you forgive not men of their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." Please do not let misinformation and a lack of true history education fuel the flames of hate and further division in our land. And it is time to work together, learn from our past, and not to build ourselves up by tearing down of others. This is a futile effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Anyone else on the last row? All right, let me thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate them. I'm going to ask this group to clear the room at this time, and thank you for your respect to each other tonight. Yeah, we'll try to accommodate. All right, thank you for your patience tonight. Let me thank you for being here. Let me tell you quickly how we will proceed at this point to expedite the process tonight, because I know there are other folks waiting. We want to give everybody an opportunity to speak that want to speak. However, once we hear from one or two speakers, I will give the rest of you in the room an opportunity to agree with that speaker and basically give up your opportunity to speak and take the same stance as the person that has just spoken. That being the case, then we will move the room more quickly if we can by that method. So we'll begin with this lady right here on the front row. Please come forward. State your name, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Pamela Hemphill. I live at 321 Morehead Street, Morganton, here in Burke County. And I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. It is very offensive to my people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hemphill. Ms. Hemphill has made a statement in favor of moving the monument. If you would like, rather than to speak tonight, if you would like to take on that position, if you want to stand at this time, we'll take note of those folks and you will not have to speak. If you stand, you give up your right to speak so that we can move the meeting on a little bit faster. So at this time, if you wish to see the monument moved from downtown Morganton, please stand, and we'll make note of that by the clerk. All right, thank you, ladies. Madam Clerk. All right, we'll hear the next speaker at this time.
My name is Jean Van Offen. I live at 208 Irvin Road in Morganton. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Nancy Van Offen, 103 Hemlock Drive. I'm also in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Marshall Jolly, 301 South King Street. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the historic courthouse lawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Next speaker.
My name is Karen Brzezinski. I'm speaking for also my husband, Dr. Mark Brzezinski, who had got called into work. We are for the removal of the Confederate statue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. Next speaker, please.
I'm Christian Johnson, here in Morganton, North Carolina, and I am for the removal of the statue.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mary Charlotte Stafford, 426 Boss Road, Morganton. I am in favor of removing the Confederate statue from the courthouse square.
Thank you, Ms. Stafford. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Joni Richardson. This message is, 613 South Green Street. This message is from both my husband, Dr. Clay Richardson, and me. We are in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Next speaker, please.
My name is Gary Vogelpohl. I live at 209 Bost Road with my wife Ruth. We're both in favor of removing this statue from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Craig, 115 York Street, Morganton, North Carolina. I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you.
My name is Erin Kaiser at 500 South Green Street. I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you.
I'm Diane Geithner from 6958 Jeter Shell Avenue, Connolly Springs. My husband Jock and I both support the removal of the Confederate statue from the courthouse square.
Thank you. Next speaker over here, please.
I'm Julia Mode, 110 North Anderson Street. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. I feel that the statue does not represent Burke County. My husband and I own the Irving Building across the street from the courthouse. We frequently show office space to people coming into town to establish a business and build a home. We talk about what a great place we have here. The wonderful Burke County recreational opportunities, the cool downtown, the breweries. They ask about the statue debate, and most have seen the YouTube of the armed protesters. They want to know if the county is going to do the right thing. As we present ourselves to potential new businesses from national and international markets, we must be mindful how clinging to racist images and monuments to Jim Crow laws reflect on the welcome they and their employees would receive. We are a community of inclusion, of fairness, of recognition of all our citizens. We should present ourselves on this most important and central site in that way. I'm asking the county to be part of a reconciliation, to be leaders in compromise between those who see the statue as honoring those who died and in removing an image that serves as a painful reminder of slavery and inequity to many citizens. The Confederate monument doesn't merit the prominent location on the square. Relocation is a better option. There have been several proposals that would embrace this concept. Burke County Commissioner's statement is always advancing. I see addressing the Confederate monument issue as part of that idea of advancement. Leadership is often difficult. Solutions are often compromises that don't make everyone happy. But leadership is what will keep or prevent our county from advancing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moe. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Lenny Moore. I live on 1377 NC 126, Morganton, North Carolina. My stand is for the removal of the statue from the courthouse square, the entire monument. This country will never get past the tarnished stain of slavery throughout our history. That is something that will be burned into our minds for hundreds of years to come. That is a stain that's burned into our souls, good or bad. But it's a reminder that we do not have to put on that garment and force people to put on that garment every time they walk around and drive through our city and see that symbol. So it is my desire to have that monument removed from the courthouse square. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Next speaker.
My name is William Russ, 204 Davis Drive.
I was born and raised in Morganton, and I'm a graduate of Freedom High School. I have several ancestors engraved on the Confederate monument, including heritage from the Duckworth and Crosby lines. My third great-grandfather, Thomas Duckworth, enlisted with the Confederacy in July 1862 in Company C. This monument is an important part of the history of Burke County, but the time has come to remove it from the center of Morganton. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Russ. Next speaker. Anyone else in this room to speak? All right. We'll bring in the next group, please. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank you for your patience tonight. We'll try to move the process continually along as best we can. We want to give everyone a chance to speak who wishes to speak. We want to know your opinions and your thoughts. I will just give you just a little bit of instruction at this point. In just a moment, we'll begin the speakers. When we hear the first speaker, we'll see what position they take. And then I'll ask you if you wish to take that position and allow you to stand, and we would make note of that, and that would end your opportunity to speak. And then continue on with those in the room who still wish to speak. That will perhaps move us along a little bit quicker. So at this time, I'm going to ask this lady right here to come forward, and please state your name and address.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kim Logan. I live at 101 Inglewood Drive here in Morganton, and I support the removal of the Confederate monument.
Thank you, Ms. Logan. Let me say also, when you come to the mic, if you want to remove your mask, you may. If not, you're certainly welcome to leave it on. And if you don't feel the need to touch the podium, then the clerk won't have to come and wipe it off. But if you wish to touch the podium, that's quite all right too. Okay, so we've heard a position to move the monument. If you'd like to state that position without having to come and speak, and we will duly note that, we'll ask you to stand at this time, and the clerk will take a record of those who stand in favor of moving the monument. Anybody wish to stand and not speak? All right, that being said, we'll move on with this next lady right here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Georgia Collett. I live at 600 Tate Street, and I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you, Ms. Collett. Next speaker.
Yes, I am Sharon Winter, 1784 Barnhill Orchard Road in Morganton. I am not in favor of removing the statue. My great-great-grandfather's name is on that statue. He was a proud person, a farmer, never owned a slave. Most of the men who fought in the war never owned a slave. North Carolina lost 42,000 men during that war. Burke County lost 308. That monument is there in honor of those men who fought. I am not in favor of this, and I think it should be brought up as a county election where all the people in the county can decide this, not that it should be decided tonight. Also, no one knows who those people are on that monument. It has never been in the paper. It has never been anywhere. If you had not been up there to see if your relative was on that monument, you would never know. I think that this should be not a bill, but I think that it should be on the next election. And I think it should be decided then whether to get rid of the statue or not. Plus, there is also a man by the name of Avery who was getting up a battalion of cavalry for the war. He was killed. His slaves, many of them fought for the North by the name of Avery. Why not put up another statue there of a black person who fought for the North instead of taking down the statue that we have now? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winter. Next speaker, please.
I'm Lawrence Camp. Lawrence Camp from 215 Evans Street here in Morganton, and I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Let's come to this side, right here.
Good evening. I'm Frances Harefield. I live at 114 North Chestnut Street in Morganton. And yes, out of respect for all the people of Burke County, I am in favor of the removal of the Confederate monument from the lawn of our courthouse in the heart of downtown Morganton.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Leon. I live at 2731 Hemlock Court, Nebo, but on the Burke County side of Lake James. I'm in favor of removing the monument, the Confederate monument, from the courthouse property. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, I'm Ann Leon, 2731 Hemlock Court, Nebo, in Burke County. I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. I'm Holly Camp from 215 Evans Street, Morganton, and I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Brian Jones. I live at 1009 River Club Drive, and I just want to say I understand what you said, Ms. Winters, and it means a lot to me what you said about your great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. But this monument has become toxic for this community. It is a lightning rod for this community, and it must go. It must go. And I think Robert E. Lee said it best when he said, "All I think that now can be done is to aid our noble and generous women in their efforts to protect the graves and mark the last resting places of those who have fallen and wait for better times." He also said that he couldn't attend a memorial association, but he said not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of those nations who have endeavored to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings of the engendered. He said it best, we need to get rid of these things, not let them fester in the public square. That monument can be moved to a cemetery where it belongs, and that's what Robert E. Lee wanted. That what would be best for this community.
I want to ask you to address the board, please, not.
Thank you. I have a lot of respect for what she said, Ms. Winters, and it means a lot what she said to me. But I would say that it doesn't make sense to have this community have a monument on the public square that is so hurtful to so many people. And it is hurtful to so many people. And I had 5 direct ancestors fight in the Civil War. And they have gravestones, historical markers, and something that resembles a memorial, but it's on private property. It's on private property. And it's unconscionable that I would ask black folks in that community here in North Carolina to be forced to pay and upkeep those memorials. It violates basic decency, basic human decency for that. So I would ask to please remove the memorial and follow Lee's advice and place the memorials in graveyards accessible to the public. And that's where they belong. That's what Lee's advice was. Put them where they're not a lightning rod, not where they divide this community, not where it's so hurtful to so many people, but where they belong so they can have a final resting place and they can be honored and their sacrifice can be honored. And that's just the best way to do it. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Will Sharp, 116 Riverside Court, Morganton. I've lived in Morganton for 31 years. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. I strongly urge you, before you take any action on this, to look back and read the comments that were submitted by George Logan at a previous meeting. I think they should speak to your heart. I would encourage that. Times change. It's truly time for the people of Burke County to be on the right side of this issue, and I would yield back to what Brian and others have said on that. But it's for our residents, our visitors, and frankly, it's for our kids that we should be there. So now in the future, I hope you'll make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Next speaker.
I'm Dr. Courtney Mole. I'm a family physician. I grew up in Morganton and moved back. We live in 5127 Piedmont Road in Oak Hill. And I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse square. I am dreading explaining the darker meanings of that monument to my daughter when she's old enough to understand. I recognize that depending on the person, they have different meanings that they can gather from it and different levels of importance that it can have for them. But I would just echo that it is a lightning rod. It is a point of pain for a lot of people in the community, and I hope our leaders have the grit to make decisions for everyone in the community, and to honor that we can't have something in a public space that puts upon painful memories upon anyone in our county. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Our next speaker, please.
My name is William Collett. I live at 600 Tate Street. My family has been a long-time residents of Morganton, Burke County. I was born and raised here as well. And I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Ann Henderson from 105 Woodsway Lane in Morganton, and I'm in favor of removing the monument, the Confederate monument, from the courthouse lawn. It's deeply offensive to so many people, and it's not a dishonor to move it to another location. We still honor our ancestors. History can't be changed, but we must move forward and think about the future and how we are portrayed in the future. We know better now. So please do consider removing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Next speaker, please.
My name is Michael Logan. This is my wife. Address is 110 Keeler Drive, Morganton. And we are in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. But I'd like to say this too. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran, and I served in Afghanistan. I'm not against those soldiers. I'm a soldier for life. They were soldiers. What I'm against is the cause. When I went to Afghanistan, this country, we fought together. It was together. Then, when I see that monument, I see division. I see lynching. I see hanging. I see rape. When I went to Afghanistan, it was the cause. In this country, we fought together. And now, what I'm seeing is disunity. Every time I see a flag, every time I see that monument, that's what I see. I'm a soldier. I'm a soldier for life. I am not against those soldiers, because I'm one. I'm one. When they go up there against that, and when you try to tear something down, it takes my heart away from me. That's the soldiers there on those monuments. Remove them. Put them somewhere else. Vietnam monument, whatever. But don't let them do that to the soldiers. Don't let them do soldiers on that square. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Next speaker, please.
Chairman Britton and Commissioners, I was going to give y'all a break this month and not make you hear from me this month, not ask you to listen to me again, but I got a letter from Margaret Patton Hampson, and she asked me if I would read it to you tonight. I believe you've all received copies of it, but she asked me if I would read it aloud so you all could hear it. And this is from Margaret Patton Hampson. I am writing to you to express my support for the removal of the Confederate statue now located at the historic Burke County Courthouse. My family has lived in Burke County for many generations, and I have lived here for most of my life. My great-great-grandfather, Abel Pitts, fought for the Confederacy, and my great-grandfather, Joseph F. Spainhour, was instrumental in securing the legislative funding for the Burke County statue. So I understand those who feel that this statue is of sentimental value or a nostalgic piece of history. However, we must keep in mind that however sentimental this statue may be to some, to many others it is a symbol of bigotry and racism erected 43 years after the Civil War, with the intent to intimidate African Americans as the era of Jim Crow and white supremacy flourished in Burke County and the rest of the South. Pictures taken at this statue after the lynching of Broadus Miller in 1927, where thousands came to view Miller's mangled body, remind us of this tragic legacy. But now this time has come to move forward as other cities across our state, including Raleigh, Salisbury, Fayetteville, Statesville, Charlotte, and Asheville, have begun the process of reckoning with a painful past. We too must address this symbol of intolerance located in our public square. I am sure that by working with the city of Morganton, a suitable site, perhaps at Forest Hill Cemetery, could be developed to house the statue. I am not saying we should forget the past or rewrite history. We can remember those who came before us, but we do not have to embrace the ideas and beliefs they held. For Burke County to grow, thrive, and flourish, our courthouse square should be a symbol of unity, not a divisive emblem of hate. You know that. We must not let the past prevent Burke County from moving into the future. I encourage you to start the process for the removal of the statue from the grounds of the historic Burke County Courthouse as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Another speaker?
Hi, my name is Molly Hemphill. I live at 276 Asheville Street in Morganton, and I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. The understanding of this group is that the monument is on county property and that you, the commissioners, have the power to vote for the monument to be removed. Since December 2020, leadership bodies across North Carolina have voted to remove at least 19 similar monuments, not only in large cities like Charlotte and Fayetteville, but in smaller communities similar to Burke County, including Salisbury, Gaston County, Rockingham, and most recently in Iredell County. We know that we all want a welcoming community that builds a better future for everyone in Burke County. And I would like to reiterate what Mr. Fullwood said earlier as a member of a steering committee with the North Carolina School of Science and Math. North Carolina and Morganton is growing, and we know an extensive amount of energy has been put into the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. We were given permission to share with you this evening that the Morganton campus has lost a number of potential leadership positions due to these candidates not wanting to move here because of the prominent presence of Confederate emblems in our county. Unfortunately, these candidates decided that this was not a place that they wanted to raise their families. So we ask that you put history in its proper place and build a future for our county that stands for equity and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hemphill. Next speaker.
I'm Eric Davidson, and I'm in agreement to remove the Confederate monument. And I want to appeal to Commissioner Avery, as owner of downtown restaurant Jake's Hamburgers, now known as Uncle Lee Burgers. I think we're one of the first minorities to own a business downtown. And as having a restaurant, we have all-inclusive people. There's many times I've been in your restaurant. There's white, blacks, Asians. There's so many people. That's what Burke County should be like, should be for all-inclusive people, just as a restaurant should be. We don't care what color we are. We're there to provide you with excellent service. And as owners, we're also there to give back to our community. We don't just take, we give back, we serve. And when I walk out of my front door in downtown on Sterling Street, and we're about to have this Crown Achievement in Morganton, this beautiful stage, when I walk out that door, when that stage has been built in August or July, I'm going to look across to my left and I'm going to see this statue. And it's going to remind me that as a minority, that my ancestors couldn't go sit in front of a restaurant and be served. I had to drink from a different water fountain. I had to use a different bathroom. I had to do the most subservient jobs. I couldn't be equal. So I appeal to all of you. Now is the time to include everyone. We want everyone to come to Morganton and join this beautiful community as I did coming from Black Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levinson.
My name is Beth Davidson. I live at 4293 Oakland Drive. I'm his other half. And what I am in total agreement to remove that Confederate monument. As a black woman, I have lived here all my life. My family, the Irvins, I'm sure you've heard that name, Avery's, Chapman's, name it. Because of our history, somewhere you've heard my family names. And so I say to you, the statue, the monument, is something that is associated to an ugly past. Can we move forward? I don't want my children, my son, to continue to go downtown, to drive through downtown and say, what does that statue represent? To me, as a black woman, that statue represents hate. I, too, have uncles, brothers, my father that served in the military. They served well. They served from a place of love, a place of honor, but they fought because they wanted equal rights for everybody. And it's what we have seen. What the black people have been dealt has not been equal. It has not been fair. Can we move forward? In the letter, it was said they didn't know that we wanted that statue to be removed. As a child, when my mother would tell me, no, that's not what you meant. I'm telling you, as a grown, almost 50-year-old woman, yes, that is what I mean. I want to feel like I matter. I don't want to see that statue. I don't want to see the monument. Because at the same time, we don't see slavery monuments up here on our square of black people that are beaten, decimated, and constantly reminded of our history. Some things we must put behind us, and we have to move forward. And this panel, you gentlemen, y'all are very vital. I tell people you're just a light-skinned version of me, okay? I don't know you, I love you, because that's what God calls me to do. But I'm asking you, please remove the monument. Just because you remove it does not mean that it's any less significant to other people, but we matter too. So I'm asking you, please put it somewhere else. Please tell us that we're important too. Please tell us that we're important too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Other speaker in the room? All right, again, let me thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your respect for each other. And we'll see if we have another group to come in. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. Let me begin by thanking you for your patience. I know many of you have waited now for some time, and we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak if that's what you'd like to do tonight. Let me just kind of tell you how we'll begin. We'll begin on the front row over here to my left in just a moment, and we'll hear that speaker. And I'll give you an opportunity after you've heard the speaker, if you have the same feeling, same opinion, and you'd like to to take that stance, I'll give you an opportunity to stand, and we will log your presence as being in line with that speaker. And then you will not need to speak after that. You would give up your opportunity to speak at that point, and we would have logged your opinion at that point, and then move on through the room for those who wish to speak. So at this time, we'll hear this gentleman on the front row, please. Please state your name and address, if you will, and you may remove your mask when you come to the podium, and you don't have to if you wish to leave it on.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Francisco Rizzo. I live in 276 Asheville Street here in Morganton. I'm in favor of removing the monument, the Confederate monument, from the courthouse square. If you want to have it in your house, great, in your property, but just not as a symbol that symbolizes this whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. You've heard Mr. Rizzo's opinion that he would like to see the statue moved. If that is your opinion and you wish to state that without having to come forward and take the time to speak tonight, I'll give you an opportunity to stand at this time, and we'll log your desire by the clerk. Anyone wish to stand and not speak? Okay, I have one. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, you will note that, and we'll continue right across the front row, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for allowing me to speak. My name is Alton Hunt, 1309 Jamestown Road, Morganton. I support the removal of the Confederate monuments from the courthouse square.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Next speaker, please.
My name is Stacy Ellis, 110 Wildwood Drive, Morganton, North Carolina, and I support and I'm in favor of removing the monument from the courthouse square.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Aaron Lipsy, and I live on 202 Ridgedale Drive, Morganton, North Carolina, and I as well approve or am in favor of removing the white supremacist Confederate statue on the courthouse lawn. And if Black Americans are going to continue to be terrorized by white supremacist memorabilia, and lawmakers are going to continue to be complicit with white supremacy in this county, then Black people are demanding reparations in the form of cash. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lipsy. Next speaker.
Good evening, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you this evening. I stand before you in support of the removal of the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. I personally find it quite intimidating and provoking, generating a negativity which perpetuates a sense of oppression and equality. I would like for you to please take that in consideration. That is my desire. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Would you state your name, please?
Oh, I am sorry. Everybody doesn't know me. Scott knows me. Wayne knows me. My name is Artie McKesson Logan, and I'm at 404 Avery, 405 North College Street. A little slip up. I moved from Avery 9 years ago, but I'm on College Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your service. My name is Reverend Michael Duncan. I'm a resident of 2516 Stony Brook Court, and because of ongoing conversations with neighbors and brothers and sisters in Christ, as well as the divisive legacies on race of Julian Carr and Walter Clark, I'm in favor of removing the Confederate memorial from public property.
Thank you, Reverend. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Gary Caldwell. I live at 134 Morgan Trace Drive, Valdez, North Carolina. I grew up here, and I see this monument, because I'm definitely in favor of having it removed. I see it as oppression, and it draws negative energy. I also see it, if we're ever going to move to what we would like to have as an egalitarian community or government, then this has to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Tommy Carpenter. I reside at 4300 Chambers Chapel Circle, Morgan, North Carolina. I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Naomi Hunt. I reside at 1309 Jamestown Road. I am in favor of the removal of the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Irvin. I reside at 3149 River Road, and I'm also in favor of removing the monument from the downtown square.
Thank you, Ms. Irvin. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Mendoza, and I live at 109 East Fleming Drive here in Morganton, and I am also I forgot the word, I'm nervous. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the square.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Amy Evans, and I reside at 205 Riverside Drive, and I am in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse square. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Good evening. My name is Malachi Pearson. I live at 514 Rocky Ford Street. I too am in favor of removing the statue from Uptown. Last year's events proved that that statue is a public safety issue. I've heard words come from that situation that I particularly wasn't comfortable with, and then when I think of my kids growing up in a town like that, in the surrounding areas, I tend to want to move away. I want to see Morganton grow. That statue stops Morganton from growing. People from the outside in, they see that statue, they don't want to live here. They go, and we're trying to grow. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Next speaker, please. On this side.
My name is Mary Ann Flood. I live at 2411 Mountain Laurel Trail in Morganton, and I fully support removal of the Confederate statue from the courthouse square.
Thank you, Ms. Flood. Next speaker, please.
I'm John Flood, and I live at 2411 Mountain Laurel Trail, Morganton. I've lived here since 1984. And I want to urge you as the county commission to remove the Confederate monument. I understand that it's a tough issue and that there are people who feel strongly on both sides. And I can understand that. My family, my grandparents fought for the Confederacy. And I grew up hearing that the South didn't lose the war, we were overpowered. And I grew up hearing that the Civil War was not about slavery, it was about states' rights. And I never saw a Yankee that wasn't fearful for the first few years of my life. And I understand that that it would be a lot easier, at least I think, for you to do nothing about this, for you to pass on it, kick it down the road, let it be. Probably safer for you politically and a lot of other ways. And I urge you not to do that. The problem is that the statute represents to many people in our community, which you've heard, the honoring of those who fought for their enslavement and for their ancestors and the subjugation of their race. And as such, it should not sit in the public square of our community. The courthouse square should not be a place that alienates and reminds citizens of this community of racism and injustice. It's time to move that statue. And it's not a dishonoring of the people who fought for the Confederacy any more than you would have a Confederate flag flying in the downtown area of our community. It is not appropriate for all of our citizens to have to endure that. The statute should be moved to a space that is reserved for historical markers. It's not that hard to find. It has no place at the center of our community where all citizens deserve to be welcomed and included. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Michael Gould. I live at 4644 Harbor View Terrace in Morganton. I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. Burke County can be a leader in the handling of these issues. I offer a solution. Burke County should create a place for a war memorial for all wars: the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gould. Next speaker, please.
My name is Bob Carswell. I'm from 110 Stacy Street in Morganton, and I'm in favor of removing the Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. Next speaker, please.
My name is Barbara Byer, and I live on 415 Alexander Avenue here in Morganton. I am in favor of removing the Confederate statue, Confederate monument from the courthouse lawn. It is a symbol of racism.
Thank you, Ms. Byer. Next speaker, please.
I'm Diana Register. I live at 106 Edgewood Avenue in Morganton, and I'm here to support the removal of the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn. Please consider it. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Do we have another speaker? All right, let me thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate all that you've had to say, and we'll ask you to clear the room at this time, and we'll let the next group of folks come on in. Thank you again. Should be pretty close. Got one, thank you. right, let me begin by thanking you for your patience tonight. I appreciate you standing by. We have tried to work through the process due to our room capacity, and we want to hear what you have to say and give you an opportunity to do that. I will give you an opportunity after our first speaker to align with whatever position they take, and you may do that without having to speak, and if you wish to stand up at that point, and if not, then we'll be glad to hear from anyone who wants to speak. So we'll start right here on the front row. Come on down. Please state your name and address, and if you wish when you speak, you can remove your mask. If not, you can certainly welcome to leave it on. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Kelly Collings Hawkins. I live at 108 Riverwoods Drive here in Morganton. And I just want to speak to say that I am in favor of removing the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn. My entire family, I'm sure every single one of my ancestors fought on the side of the on the side of the South. I'm from Kentucky, but I don't see the need in this day and age for us to have this in the center of our town square, where we try to welcome people to come to our community. It's the opposite of welcoming, and I really hope you all will take into consideration what each one of us has said tonight. And I know that this is it county, is it city, is it private property, but we hope that you will use the powers that you have to really listen to the community and help move our community forward. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, you've heard a position here to move the monument. If you'd like to take that position, we'll record that. Our clerk will record it. If you'd like to stand at this time and not speak, I'll give you that opportunity, and we'll record your feelings at that point. Anyone wish to stand and not speak? All right, seeing no one, we'll continue on this second row right here, please.
Hi, my name is Jessica Howells. I live at 2470 Mountain Laurel Trail out up in the Upper Creek region of the county. I'm an educator here in Burke County, a science educator, and I want to say that I support the removal of the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn, and I hope that you consider it. It's going to take true leadership to do this, I know. It's going to be a tough thing, but I think it's important to do this now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Leslie Kern. I live at 507 Lenore Street, and all my ancestors fought for the South and the Confederacy, but I am in favor of removing the Confederate statue from the grounds of the courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is David Howells, and I live on Mountain Laurel Trail as well. And the statue means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But the things that it also represents to me that are the most important to consider are it does represent the legacy of slavery, and it does represent the legacy of segregation. And yet, there it sits, all by itself, at the courthouse in the middle of this beautiful town that I've lived in for over 30 years. And so please consider to do what I think is the right thing and remove the statue from the courthouse, on the courthouse lawn. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Howells. Next speaker, please.
I'm Betsy Chalfin. I live at 109 Morehead Street in Morganton. I relocated here about 7 years ago and have grown to really love Morganton. I would like to see it continue to move into the future instead of lingering in the past. So I am very much in favor of removing the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next speaker, please.
Hello, County Commissioners. It's good to see you tonight, and we appreciate your leadership in many things. a group of us pray every Thursday on the courthouse lawn, and we have for probably close to a decade. We pray every Thursday for you all and for the other leaders in this community, across Burke County. We've even adopted a nickname for Burke County, that it's the most loving place on earth. And every time that I see that statue, and every time I go down the highway and see those flags waving, I pray for this county, and I pray for the people who have put up those flags, even the people who are of the legacy of that Confederate soldier, because we really do want this community to be the most loving place on earth. We really indeed see this place as a place that has so much potential. And I think that you all have a real opportunity right now, a real opportunity, like a course in the middle of a pathway, to take one direction or the other that leaves a legacy for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, that says that we are siding with love, and we're siding with unity, and we're siding with oneness. I think that that Confederate soldier, really honestly, if we are honest about it, it speaks for itself. We know exactly what was taking place during the Confederate War, the Civil War, and the Confederate side. And we know, I have a three-great-grandfather that was a Confederate soldier. It doesn't mean that I don't want him to be honored or others to be honored, black or white. But I do think that there's a time and place when you have an opportunity, a real opportunity in life, to really earnestly look at your heart and say, is this what we want to be known for? Is this what we want our legacy to be for this county? Can it be the most loving place on earth? Or shall it be a representation of June, I think it was June 17th, when there were guns and there were mounds of people around that Confederate soldier, impassioned about various issues, which we prayed that not one single person would be hurt, would be harmed, would be killed on that particular day when we found out that they were going to be gathering. There shouldn't be that kind of symbol that causes us to have those kind of feelings where it automatically creates a left and a right. We should all be pressing for a community that strives for unity. Make Burke County be the most loving place on earth. Let's get rid of that soldier. Let's get rid of that Confederate monument, and let's put a different message forward that we can all embrace. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you state your name, please?
Oh, yes. It's Naomi Smith, and I live at 104 Inglewood Drive, Morganton.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next speaker, please.
Good evening to you all. My name is Tim Smith. I live here in Morganton, and it was said already tonight that we cannot change our history. And while that is true, we do have a say in our present, and we do have a say in our future. And I love what that lady just said there, Naomi Smith, who happens to be my wife. I love what she said. Make Morganton, Burke County, that is, the most loving place on earth. We should have our hands in that to do our part in carrying that out. I am in favor of removing the statue from the courthouse square.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I'm Pastor Paul Carlson. I live at 103 Irvindale Lane, and I am in favor and encourage you to remove the statue from the courthouse square.
Thank you, Pastor. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. I appreciate you all's time. I'm George Logan. I live at 101 Inglewood Drive. Let me take this off. And again, I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to each and every one of us as we share. I want to start out with the scripture, and not here to preach, but I want to give a foundation as to what I'm talking about. And it says this in Joshua chapter 5, verse 13 and 14. Now when Joshua was Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us, or are you for our enemies?" And the man replied, "Neither." He says, "But as the commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" Today I appeal to you to consider that it may be advantageous and even vitally important for us to seek not to be on the side of any group, any organization, any political party, any race, but better to earnestly seek to find out what God's voice is saying and perhaps getting on his side. Joshua initially asked the question that many of us ask one another in today's highly volatile and politicized environment. Whose side are you on? Are you for us, or are you for our enemy? But yet, on the contrary, was the answer from the commander of the army of the Lord. His reply to Joshua was simply, "Neither." As commissioners of our county of Burke, you too are being asked the same question. And I hope the response is the same, and that is neither. It seems to me that something of a spiritual nature is happening in our country right now. God is drawing man's attention to what I believe is the core issue of this country, and that is racial division. Given the weightiness of the issue, I would ask that you please place this concern on the county commissioner's agenda, and thus begin a discussion about the worthiness of this particular monument and the statue being in our community as a symbol for what we stand for. If indeed, in this very hour, God is drawing our attention across our nation to this long-standing divide, are we in this county and you as county representatives seeking a stance of neither side, or merely passively resting on the side of the status quo? Could the removal of the Confederate monument and the statue of God's plan be God's plan for our community of Burke right now? Could it also be possible that to do nothing, we are in essence resisting the will of God? Thus, should we insist on siding with those whose will it is to keep it in the public square? County commissioners, I stand here along with all that have come before you this evening and say emphatically that I am in favor of the removal of the Confederate monument and the statue that lies ahead of it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pastor Logan. Other speakers here? Let me say again that I speak for this board, we appreciate the message that each of you have brought tonight, regardless of how you have positioned yourself. We've heard from both sides of this issue. We've heard from many different thoughts and opinions, and I want to assure you that this board has heard and that we will move forward and continue to deliberate on this matter and do the best we can to consider that going forward. So thank you for being here tonight, and with that, I will close the public comments. If there
Mr.
are
Chairman?
no others. Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry, I have one more comment from a citizen that emailed their statement, if that's okay.
Please.
It's from Rachel Woodard, and she supports the removal of the Confederate statue in Burke County. She thinks it represents a racist past and does not reflect the future we want to see in this county, especially given our county's motto. She also supports the removal of the large Confederate flags in Burke County and says no flag deserves to take the place of the stars and stripes in this nation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, thank you for being here tonight. And with that, I will close public comments. And gentlemen, I'll ask, do we need to take a recess or shall we press forward? I'm looking to the commissioners. Moving on. Okay. Thank you very much. This brings us to item number 9. Thank you again for being here, folks. County Manager, we'll hear the consent agenda at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 9 items on your consent agenda. First, BOC setting forth support to increase broadband access throughout Burke County. Number 2, BOC setting forth zero tolerance for littering throughout Burke County. Item 3, clerk, appointment to the Library Board of Trustees. Item 4, community development, accept 1780 trail easement. Item 5, fire marshal, request for approval of loan agreement between Home Trust Bank and Eichard Township Fire Rescue Incorporated. Item 6, tax department, tax collection report for February 2021. Item 7, tax department, release refund report for February 2021. Item 8, tax department, tax foreclosure report, progress through December 2020. And item 9, Western Piedmont Community College, approval of letter of funding commitment for trades building. That concludes your consent agenda, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, you've heard the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to accept it.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we approve and accept all 9 of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard this motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I believe that's all of us, Madam Clerk. Brings us to item number 10, items for decision. First item on the decision agenda is Community Development Award Linville Dam Boardwalk Design Contract. This will be presented by Shane Prisby, Community Development Operations Manager. Evening, Shane. Thank you for
Good evening, Mr.
hanging
Chairman,
with us.
members of the board. Thank you all very much. At the July 2020 regular meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved the withdrawal of the Linville Dam Boardwalk project from the STBGDA grant program and to repurpose the allocated match for the design, engineering, and construction of the project. The Community Development Department submitted a request for the qualifications of design engineering firms and received 4 strong submittals. Working with representatives from Duke Energy, the department ranked the firms, and the submission from the team of Mattern and Craig and Mosaic Civic Studios was scored the highest. The initial scope came in over our budget. It was about $130,000. Our max budget was $100,000 for the project. So we worked with Mattern and Craig to reduce items in the scope to bring it in line with the existing budget that we had. One of the major items that we changed was geotechnical work. In discussion with the design firm and Duke Energy, we felt that we could use existing data that Duke Energy had from historic borings that they've done on site and lower the threshold to hand augering to meet a lower permit threshold for FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, to reduce the ultimate cost for that and get the data that we need to complete the project. Duke Energy feels that this is an achievable goal. They've done it in the past. Our engineers feel that this will get them the data that we need, and it brings us in line with our project. So we feel that this new scope meets all of the goals and requirements so that we can have a design cost estimate and everything ready to go for the project. We are not anticipating needing any other changes for the design work at this time.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Gentlemen, you've heard this information from Shane tonight. Any questions for him?
Mr. Chairman, I think I asked this question in pre-agenda, but that $100,000, it doesn't say in the motion where that money is coming from. Is that from general fund?
Commissioner Taylor, that money was, I believe, originally from general fund, and it was part of, was it a budget request? And it's in, I can see Margaret in the back.
Mr. Taylor, it's already budgeted there. The expense is already budgeted, just waiting for them to determine who to award the contract to. It is not new money.
So it's already in the budget?
Yes, sir.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Shane on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time. All right. The motion.
Read the entire motion, clerk. All right. To award the contract to Matter and Gregg for design and engineering of the Linville Dam Boardwalk project in the amount of $100,000. Further, authorize the county manager to execute this agreement on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
Thank you, man. You've heard this motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board, and Margaret as well. Thank you all.
This brings us to item number 2. This item comes from the sheriff, detention officers recruitment and retention. This will be presented by our Sheriff Steve Whistler. And we've got some other folks as well if we need to ask questions. Evening, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir, and good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
Sheriff's Office, as with many other jails and state correction facilities throughout the nation, is struggling to recruit and retain qualified detention officers. Due to this fact, the Burke County Sheriff's Office is requesting that the Burke County Board of Commissioners consider implementing the following steps to aid in the effective recruitment and retention of non-sworn detention officers so we can adequately staff our jail. Before I go into the individual 4 requests, please allow me to say thank you for the collusion of HR, the chair and the vice chair of the county commissioners, the county administration, including the county manager, for working with us to develop these 4 items that we are bringing before the full board tonight. I'd also like to publicly thank the dedicated detention officers who have worked their shifts and the shifts of others, who have come in early and stayed late to give us a sufficient number of staff to operate the jail while we are still trying to hire sufficient staff to safely operate the jail. The first request that we're asking is a minimum salary increase, asking to increase the minimum salary for new hires and existing non-sworn detention officers, detention corporals, detention sergeants, and detention lieutenants by 5%. That's 1 pay grade. Effective pay period would be, again, April 3rd, 2001. And that will address our need to incentivize and attract new detention officers. The second request is a retention bonus. We're asking to provide an annual retention bonus of $600 to newly hired non-sworn detention officers and existing non-sworn detention officers upon their successful completion of their first year of service. Again, that's for the new hires. And on completion of the successful completion of 1 year of service that begins April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022 for existing non-sworn detention officers. Detention officers would also be eligible for a subsequent retention bonus in the amount of $1,200 upon the successful completion of their second year of service as a detention officer on April 1st, 2023 for currently employed detention officers. This program will be in effect through March 31st, 2022, contingent upon budget approval each year. And for the most part, officers that are leaving the sheriff's office detention are not going to other law enforcement agencies. They're going to the private sector. For example, we have now lost 6 officers to FedEx. We've lost some who are becoming stay-at-home parents because their spouse's income is more than the detention officer's income. So I think we've had 2 that's left to stay home with the children. We need this retention bonus to retain the people after we are able to recruit and hire them. The third item is part-time detention positions. To reinstate the previously approved 15 part-time detention officer positions. These positions are non-benefited positions. And the part-time positions are just reviving what we had before. I'm not aware of any detention or correction officers who have expressed an interest, since they can earn much more on an hourly rate by working overtime in their own agency, but we may possibly have retired officers from other agencies that may be interested. The last item is a staff recruitment position. We ask that you approve a creation of a staff recruitment and development specialist that would report directly to Burke County Human Resource Director and be assigned to work directly with the Sheriff and the Jail Administration to aid in the effective and timely recruitment and onboarding of detention officers. Once the jail is adequately staffed, this position would be utilized throughout the county to assist with the effective recruitment and retention of other positions. And just to clarify some confusion there's been in the past, this is an HR position. It is not a sheriff's office position. So I stand before you with those 4 requests.
Thank you, Sheriff. And let me say, just before I open the floor for questions, I want to thank the Sheriff for working together after nearly a year of hiring and losing and hiring and losing, and we continue to not be able to fully staff the jail, and he had come to us numerous times asking us to, consider increase in salary and what could we do. I felt like it was time that we needed a concerted effort to look at this from every possible angle. I asked the sheriff to bring his staff. I asked our manager to bring HR staff, our finance officer, the vice chair, together and just brainstorm what can we possibly do to address this matter. We need to staff our jail. We need it fully staffed so that the folks we have are not worked to death, and we need to fully operate our jail. And so I want to thank manager, staff, HR, everybody that came together to look at what we could possibly do. And so what you see here and what we discussed in pre-agenda is what we have brought forward. So with that bit of explanation, I will open the floor at this time for any questions to the sheriff.
Mr. Chairman, I looked at this over and over and over again. And, I didn't really make a statement at pre-agenda, but I don't see how we cannot do this. I hate to do this and not wait till the beginning of the new year, but I just see, when I look around, that's a tough job, and I just don't see how we cannot, how we could deny this or anything. I just think we got to move ahead with it. I don't know if it's going to help. I mean, we see it's all over the state, the nation. I don't think a lot of people want to be a jailer today, but I mean, we got to try to help those people out. I don't think any of us would do it for the monies that are up there on the board or whatever. But the more I study this thing, I think we just got to do it. I mean, whether it'll solve the problem, I don't know, Steve. I mean, I know what you're up against, and it's just. I mean, that's a tough job. I don't think any of us here would really want to do that job. And I just think that, we got to go ahead with this. Whether it helps, I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But my hand goes out to each one of those jailers. I mean, that's a tough job.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think that I referred to this issue during pre-agenda as not a fix. It's not gonna cure the problem that we have. And I asked the staff to get some numbers together for me. Were we successful in getting those numbers? And I wanted the numbers, not to know the numbers of the information, but I wanted the numbers to help, supposedly help and hopefully help that you understand why I have the position that I have. And I'd preface that with, Steve, I think we're looking at a Band-Aid fix. It's not going to fix what you need. And I will recall and remind you that, and the board, that when we were building that new jail, and your comment was, and I'll try to quote it, but if I'm off a little bit, that you'd prefer not to build a new jail, but you'd rather have the money to give your people raises and money and to hire some additional people. Anyhow, I asked the question of how many, gosh, I can't read my writing, all non-sworn detention officers are there? What's the total number? How many of those would move up? Anybody have those numbers?
Are you asking me, Mr. Taylor? I apologize. I didn't get any requests from you about numbers. I'm not sure what you're asking about. Tell me your question again, please.
How many is all non-sworn detention officers that's going to get these raises?
Well, we got 56, but those 56 are 4 sergeants, 4 corporals, and 48 detention officers. Now, we've got 2 lieutenants that's non-sworn, they would get it. The classification officer would get it. And would the maintenance tech get it? No. So that would be, looks to me like 59? 59 positions would get it, fully staffed.
59.
Yes.
That's 59 positions we don't have, is that correct?
Well, yes, I mean, total staffing of the jail for everybody, including the officers that's on the floor. There's 5 officers that don't even come into jail. They're transport officers. One's a state transport officer. 4 of them are transporting from the jail to the downtown holding facility. 2 of them are staying over there after we get the staff there. So you got to take 5 off of that. 3 lieutenants. One of those is the sworn lieutenant that we have over there now. So that's 2 lieutenants. And you got the 4 sergeants, 4 corporals, and 48. If we are fully staffed, counting those people that won't get a raise, those transport officers, the lieutenant, the administrative assistants, the captain, those people will not get raises. But at fully staffed, we have 68 total jail staffs, counting everybody, 68. Right now, we've got 19 vacancies.
So how many of those 68 would get the pay grade of
59.
raise? 59. How many would also get the 5% raise?
Well, 59 would get the 5% raises. So you're talking about the bonus?
Well, your program calls for pay grade increase plus 5%.
No, the 5% is the pay grade increase.
Pay grade?
One pay grade is 5%.
That's the one and the same.
Okay.
So 59 people, if you're fully staffed, and we're not, but when you're fully staffed, 59 people would get a 5% pay raise.
Okay, what is the total cost of that 5% raise?
I'd have to ask HR or somebody that, because I don't know what we pay as far as benefit costs.
It's right here, it's right there.
Is that, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I do have that in here then. So it should be on your item.
That's for this year.
Yeah, for this year, it'd be $22,500 for the remainder of this year. And my understanding is that would come out of fund balance.
Your lap salary.
Lap salary. And then next year, it'd be $96,500.
Excuse me, back up to your statement. You said how much would come out of fund balance?
Lap salary, $22,500 would be what we would need to continue for this fiscal year.
Okay.
In next fiscal year, it would cost $96,500
Okay.
with benefits.
With what?
With the benefits.
Okay. So as we stated, it's not more than what we had stated at pre-agenda, somewhere around $250,000.
I don't know where that number came from.
add the numbers together. So the 5%. What would be the total amount, finance officer, of all these combined? What's the total amount added to our cost for 2021, 22?
One moment. $198,400 is what I got.
198,000.
400.
400.
That includes the staff recruitment position estimate.
Okay. Under Article 3, Steve, what was the need for reinstatement? If we had 15 part-timers, why did they leave?
I think we talked about if we had people that had retired from like Department of Corrections or something that wanted to come, that we would have the ability to pay them as part-time staff. Again, that's really not costing anything if you think of it, that you don't hire those people if you're fully staffed. So that would only be until you get fully staffed. But quite frankly, I don't remember, Greg, have we ever hired any part-time people?
No, sir.
There's just people not interested because they can work overtime at their own agency and make time and a half. And we don't pay, but what is it, $15, so that they can make much more than that working overtime at their own agency. But again, somebody retires from an agency and wants to work part-time, we would have that ability to hire them as part-time.
Okay. And I want to preface this by a little bit of a funny story, if you don't mind. I don't know how many saw that movie that John Wayne was in, and I don't remember the title of the movie, but it was repeated twice in that movie, but once by his enemy and once by himself. And it went something like, not my fault, don't have to be your fault, don't have to be anybody's fault, but if anything goes wrong, somebody's going to get shot. But here is the reason I went back and created these questions was from item 4. And it says, approve the creation of staff recruitment and a development specialist position under the human resources budget with an assignment pay grade of 21. So how much is assignment pay? What's pay grade 21 pay?
The salary and benefits is annually $58,000 for that position.
58?
Yes, sir. It's included in the $198,000 I gave you.
Okay. 58,000. I tried to get a hold of a couple specialists in this, and one called me back and one didn't. And that part really floored me, that we're going to hire 2 people under another department and pay for it out of another. But hire 2 people for a sheriff and pay for it out of human resources. My question to the legal people I called, is that not illegal? One of them never called me back. I expect a call tomorrow, the next day. But the other one said, and I quote, I am not a government finance expertise. You're above my level, but I surely would tell you that is very shady. But why would we do that?
There's only one position that we're talking about for the staff recruitment.
To me it says both. Are you saying staff recruitment / development specialist is one place?
Yes, sir. That's one position.
One employee?
Yes, sir.
The question is still very valid. I don't think JR would put one of his employees' salaries under advertisement. He better not, he'd be in trouble.
The position can be utilized by other county departments. It will be primarily focused, particularly in the first year. We hope a year will take care of it, but it will be focused on helping the sheriff's office initially, but can be utilized in any department that has retention or recruitment issues. We've had them in DSS previously, EMS, trying to get paramedics on board. So we foresee this position being able to be utilized broadly by the county. That's why it would not be funded just by the sheriff's department. It wouldn't be fair to him or that budget to put it there when it's only going to be focused there initially and then utilized by other departments.
Is Rhonda still? Yeah, back there she is. Are you in agreement to be paying somebody's salary in another department?
I think I may be able to clarify is that it's going to come out of the HR budget. The cost of it's going to, the cost is going to come out of the HR budget, not the sheriff's budget. The sheriff brought this forward as just a total, I guess, fix, or not fix, but actually some solutions that we can try to work to get the detention officers filled. And what we're going to do is the position would be hired and report to me, but it would be assigned to the sheriff's office to help them get stabilized. And then once they're stabilized, then that position can go to other departments that also have some similar issues and help in those areas as well. But right now, this is the crisis. This is the one that needs the most attention.
If I may paraphrase,
Sure.
You're telling me that you're hiring an HR person and he's going to work for the sheriff department.
He or she.
Pardon?
Yeah, he or she would be,
Or she,
yeah,
correct.
would be assigned to work there. They would still report to me. And this is going to be a team effort. It has to be a team effort for it to work. We would be working in coordination with the major, with the captains, with the sheriff, and they would keep me in the loop with everything. I would be involved as well, because it's going to take a collaborative effort to try to make this work, from my perspective.
Other questions for,
Wait a minute. I draw to your gentleman's attention several things. Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay, thank you.
Clears that up a little bit. We were asked about a month ago to okay $30,000 for an employee. And we said, no, you wait. We looked at another budget item that was, I think about 112, I don't remember. And we said, that's not okay. And we set a precedent for the last 4 or 5 months of just adding dollars to our budget, almost on demand. And it's unhealthy for any county to get into that cycle of way to do business. Sheriff, I'm going to vote no just simply because, and the reason I wanted these numbers to make this statement, we have given 5, 6, 7 raises and more money to the sheriff's department in the last 3 years. And it didn't fix the problem. And when we give this money, I can tell you right now, I can bet you money on it, it's not going to fix your problem. And I think we need, as a board, to have several meetings as you had and have a think tank come out of that. I agree with your statement from way back that we were supposed to build a jail that took fewer employees. We built a jail that takes more employees. and then we didn't give you enough employees to run the jail. I think this needs to be, I hate to use the word recycled, but I can't come up with another one now. I think it needs to be recycled, and we need to take a totally new approach and look at your situation and fix it. And this doesn't fix it. And that's the reason for my statements, that you can continue to put a Band-Aid on something, but it won't fix it. The Band-Aid will quickly come off or be used up.
I do think we followed your line of thinking in that that's what we did. We've got all the players. The commissioners were represented by the chair and the vice chair. We've got HR, we've got finance. In fact, this position that's added, this HR position, Catawba County has a full-time position in the jail, and that's what that lady does. She just recruits for Catawba County Sheriff's Office. You're right that I don't know if it can fix it, but I do know that Catawba County has been trying to hire now for 18 months. And I talked to her, myself and the major, last week, and she says, we are stuck as far as hiring people. But the problem is you just cannot continue to hire these people and let them leave and sustain the jail. We cannot do that to these people. That's the reason I wanted to make sure to say publicly, thank you for those officers that stuck with us, because they're saying over and over, pay's number one, understaffing is number two, absenteeism is number three for them being overworked. So we're trying to do everything we can. We got a group of people together that think differently, that's got different ideas, came together, and this was what we come up with. So I think we did follow your concept of looking at it from a different perspective, and I've been reaching out to the Sheriff's Office, Catawba County, that has one of these people. Talked to the sheriff, he said it's been wonderful. That's how he told me hiring that person has helped him get people. But they're still struggling. They still have some numbers to go. They've been hiring for 18 months, and they've not even opened up their new jail. And so, quite honestly, I mean, this is a national problem. It doesn't take very much research to see that law enforcement is not in vogue as far. You don't see kids wanting to be firemen and law enforcement officers anymore. It's a very difficult field to recruit and retain. So, but we can't just stay stagnant and continue to lose. We want to get that jail fully staffed so we can start helping the county by generating some revenue with rental beds, hopefully. If we don't fill it up ourselves, I don't know what's going to happen after COVID, because everybody says after COVID we're going to go back to prosecuting cases. That's an issue.
Well, it doesn't help any, Mr. Chairman, I'm about through, so I will give you a couple of quick analogies through life. When I was on the school board, we had the same problem. Big daddies, meaning big counties, who have 10 times the resources and tax revenue that we have and more, will always, if you bump your salary up $1,000, they'll bump it up $2,000, and they're still going to come get your employee. It's the same with radio, church, I don't care where it is. When I was managing a radio station and we had good DJs, we had DJs taking the numbers, and guess who hired the DJs? Charlotte, Asheville, Greensboro, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. The same scenario is with, and this story was used in church training, wasn't radio or nothing else, but they were telling about pastors who wanted to make as much money as the church who had 1,000 members, and he only had 100. He can't expect to make, or should not expect to make, as much money as a pastor at the bigger church. And if you want to move up, many times when you've reached the highest plateau in pay for that position, the only choice you got is to move to a bigger church or to some to a new territory or whatever. But I just repeat that, I think this is not gonna solve your problem, may help in 30 days, but you'll see what I mean.
Well, let me say this, though. I think it needs to be said about clarification. We are not losing them to other agencies, law enforcement. We're not losing them to other jails. We're losing them to private sector.
Losing them to what?
To private sector. They're not going to other jails. They're leaving detention altogether and going in private sector work. So we've got to do something to recruit and retain.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve number one, increasing all non-sworn detention officer classifications, including corporals, sergeants, and lieutenants, one pay grade on the Burke County pay plan, and increase existing non-sworn detention officers, including corporals, sergeants, and lieutenants, 5% effective with pay period beginning April 3rd, 2021. Number two, approve an annual retention bonus for newly hired detention officers and existing staff as presented. Number three, approve the reinstatement of 15 part-time non-benefited detention officer positions. Number four, approve the creation of a staff recruitment and development specialist position under the human resources budget with an assigned pay grade 21 and add to the Burke County pay plan.
Thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. And those opposed? Madam Clerk, that's 4-1. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, sir.
This brings us to item number 11 tonight, reports and comments. We'll start way down there with Miss Margaret.
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the last meeting of Commissioners on February 16th, I have reviewed and revised a memorandum of understanding with the City of Hickory concerning the building of hangars at the Hickory Airport and attended a special joint meeting of the boards to approve it. I have reviewed exceptions of title for the attorney with Silcondo LLC, and we have worked out those exceptions. Have reviewed the proposed Silcondo lease agreement with Eckerness. I have developed a release agreement to allow the county or its contractors to go upon private property for soil testing for Phase 1 environmental site assessment purposes. We have filed an entry of default in the Burke County versus Cook matter, and we'll be filing judgment on the pleadings shortly. I have completed 3 title searches on property for the county and reviewed an agency agreement for the property, and I have completed research for community development regarding demolition orders. That's all.
Thank you, J.R. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am proud to report that Vice Chairman Moley and Commissioner Carswell completed their 2 clock hours of ethics training as required by general statutes. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager.
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Avery.
No comments.
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to report that in addition to the regular meeting packet, meetings that's in your packet, I attended the ribbon cutting along with you and Scott at Henry River Mills, and attended along with Johnny at the steering committee meetings by Zoom. And the other thing, if I may take the liberty, Johnny announced at our Republican meeting that he had been voted in as second vice chair. Is that correct?
Second Vice President of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners.
Correct. And I think he deserves congratulatory applause from his peers and his co-workers. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Vice Chair.
The only thing to report, we did have a Tourism Development Authority meeting today at lunch, and That information will be in next month's packet. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Scott. Mr. Carson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have to say tonight is I want to thank you and Madam Clerk for the way you handled this group of people that was in here tonight. That was very professional on both of your parts. That could have gone south real quick, but it was an excellent, excellent job, and I commend both of you for that.
Thank you. I have no other items tonight. I will give you several reminders, gentlemen. Our legislative breakfast meeting on March the 26th with Western Piedmont Community College at 8 a.m. at actually 7:30 if you want to have breakfast. And I will remind you, we're in a little bit different room, be on the first floor, room 163, I think it's just right past the reception. So won't be going upstairs. As folks throughout the county, please don't litter. We continue to see lots of litter in our county, and I hope that you will take the initiative in your area where you live to pick up a little trash, if you don't mind, and help us with litter across Burke County. Please consider adopting or fostering a pet from our Animal Services Center. They continue to do a great job. They had a good report in our report section this month as well. And then county offices will be closed for Good Friday on April the 2nd, 2021.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Might you want to mention how we will hold our April meetings?
Yes, we do plan to return to in-person meeting on April, our pre-agenda meeting in April. We'll leave the room set up like it is, so we'll still have some social distancing. And we'll also give the clerk a bit of a break and set up a table, and folks can kind of clean up after themselves if they're concerned about germs. So just make you aware of that. We will plan to move back to in-person at our pre-agenda meeting in April. All right, Madam Clerk, thank you for that reminding me. Vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the audience. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment for the ETJ, as well as the Planning Board for the ETJ, the Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, the Recreation Commission, and the Library Board of Trustees for an at-large seat.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This brings us to item 13. We do have need for a closed session tonight. Closed session to discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss economic development matters, and to discuss personnel matters. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time pursuant to NCGS 143.318.11A3, 4, and 6.
So moved.
Thank you, Wayne. We'll take a 5-minute recess, and we will convene in chambers. Okay, we had a proper motion to come out of closed session. At this time, we'll consider ourselves back here. I'll entertain motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve the purchase of real estate property PIN numbers 27628668825, PIN number 27629606635, and PIN number 27628722142, located at 2350, 2354, and 2358 US 70 in Conley Springs. Also authorize the chairman of the county manager to execute the purchase agreement on behalf of the board and to appropriate up to $550,000 of general fund balance.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Gentlemen, you've heard this motion. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. With that, that'll bring us to recess, and I'll entertain a motion to recess until March the 26th, 2021 at 8 a.m. at the Foothills Higher Education Center, room 163.
Would that be 7:30 for breakfast, sir?
Yes, sir. Meeting begins at 8, breakfast at 7:30.
You need a motion? So moved.
All those in favor, uplifted hand. I'm going to say that's 5-1, Madam Clerk. All right. But sometimes he does turn down breakfast. You never know. Not me.